How's it going? Welcome back, my wise ones, to a fantastic video today. I'm so excited because we get to dissect and talk about Subnautica 2, the early access version of Subnautica 2. Sadly, we aren't getting a full release of this game. It's going to take us around 2 years to get to the 1.0 release of Subnautica. But today, I just want to dissect and go over absolutely everything that you need to know about Subnautica 2. So sit back, relax, grab yourself a snack. I do hope you enjoy this Subnautica 2 early access review. Basically, I'm making this just to go over absolutely everything that you need to know, all of the details that we have actually seen and has actually been shown off to press, what this game actually is, why it's special. If you've never played Subnautica 1, talk about that as well. We're going to go into positives, negatives, if it's actually worth your time buying Subnautica 2 in early access, because let's be honest, early access games are not always great.
Whoa. Maybe in like 3 seconds I die. Okay, that's not supposed to happen, right?
So I have done hundreds and hundreds of hours of insane research into this game, and of course what the developers have already sent press through emails and what I've received as well. And of course I will be discussing the first game as well, what made that game so special and beloved to this day. The atmosphere that it captures is still so unique to gaming that we can only really experience this thanks to the media of gaming. But also, most games just haven't tapped into the sense of wonder the ocean actually offers, especially that of an alien ocean. That's what makes Subnautica just a masterpiece. And answer the question, is Subnautica 2 worth it? Is it worth your time? So if you're new to the channel, become a wise one today. If you love early access reviews, covering games in greater detail, analyzing their themes and meaning, philosophical videos, and early access reviews like this, deeper yearly reviews, you're in the right place for all things gaming and the deeper side of gaming. Become a wise one, use your critical thinking for some good in this world, and also consider checking out the music behind me on Spotify. My new album Divinity is out now. If you love the soundtrack for Subnautica, and you should because it goddamn slaps, I do something similar. So the first big positive of Subnautica 2, well, it's a no-brainer, okay? This is why everyone is so pumped about this game, and this is why I think Subnautica 2 reviews are going to be absolutely just astonishing. Because if you're not aware, this is the most wish-listed game on Steam, and just this corporate attitude of AAA gaming now has kind of backfired, and I'm glad because people are sick of that type of design philosophy and approach. But Subnautica 2 is doing gameplay first, fun first, you know, feedback from the players and the community. It's one of those games that reminds me of older Bethesda, where they actually built it around community. They let modders go crazy with this game. They take feedback from the modders and build an actual better game going forward. This is what should happen with AAA games. So the first big positive is, yes, it's going to be co-op, okay? So you are going to be playing this with up to 4 other people, which is something that I'm so excited for because it's going to make the game just so much more fun, because it's, you know, just going to be a connected ecosystem where you can actually share all of these adventures together, and you don't have to be tethered. You can literally go off and explore completely different biomes and still all be connected in the same world, so that's going to be a huge plus. Now remember, in Subnautica 1, what made that game so goddamn special? It's the abyss, it's the unknown, it's the humanity of wanting to explore the unknown.
I gotta tell you, it was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
It's almost like how Moby Dick stared into the abyss and got lost. That's how you feel with Subnautica. The terror that you feel exploring these dark, you know, bottomless oceans where sometimes you can't even see the bottom. I personally have done this myself. Not fully dive deep down, obviously, but I have jumped into the middle of the ocean from a boat before. And let me tell you, I literally screamed like a little girl and lasted around 10 seconds. Because having nothing at the bottom, seeing absolutely nothing but, you know, just wide ocean all around you, your primal brain just clicks in and you're not gonna like it, okay? So I do worry about the game now being co-op because it's going to take away some of that kind of cosmic horror energy from the first game, and that's what's so good about it is, you know, the deeper you go, the more and more of a horror game it actually becomes, where, you know, it looks like a kind of survival crafting game on the top layers of Subnautica, and the further down you go, it gets into cosmic horror, dealing with, you know, all kinds of crazy questions about space and the universe, and piecing together stories from, you know, the people who are left here, and it just gets into more of that mystery and especially that horror gameplay, and that's what's so amazing about this game. That's why Subnautica 1 can't be beat. But luckily, I think that, you know, playing it with friends is going to make it much more of a community-driven experience and a lot more fun, just those moments. But if you still want that horror experience, you can still play it single player, so it's not like it's going to strip that away from you. But I just don't think it will be as isolating as the first game, obviously. Now let's talk about the early access, and for the most part this is a big positive, and this is why I like to do early access reviews or look at a game, you know, before it actually drops, because you need to understand what you're actually getting, because a lot of gaming today is all about marketing. They can do a complete 180, they can lie in marketing material, they can buy off influencers and all this shit, so it's better to actually dissect the information yourself. That's why I do these early access reviews. And Subnautica 2 Early Access, for the most part, it looks like it's going to be a good one. You're going to get 20 hours of content day one when you actually get into this at a discount. So already there is a solid amount of gameplay here. They have been transparent that there are going to be bugs and stuff like that. But if you're like me and you're a sucker for exploration games, and especially games where you can explore, you know, an ocean, and just a world that truly feels connected and alive, and an ecosystem, an alien world, then I highly recommend this indie gem, and it has such a unique aesthetic and charm about it. So take a look, and we'll be back straight to the video after this. So let me introduce you to this hidden gem that I've been playing lately. If you're looking for a more unique indie game, this game has all of that covered, and honestly it's one of the most refreshing projects I've come across in a while. You play as a stranded alien scientist trying to get back to space, and the whole game is built around exploring this really vibrant open world. Crafting your own tools and weapons from natural resources and slowly figuring out the planet as you go. That's what makes this game so satisfying. The unique charm of it. It reminds me of something like Beyond Good and Evil, that glory days of, you know, just wacky creativity that I really love. What stood out to me immediately is the art style. It's just very distinctive, very colorful, it just pops, and it feels different from every other game that's coming out right now. The world design is also really strong. You've got these different biomes that actually feel unique, and the exploration just feels natural and like a grand moment when you just naturally come across them and have this different tone and atmosphere. This game does not hold your hand whatsoever. You got to figure out things for yourself, and that's what makes it so fun, and the exploration so good. Like I said, crafting, you know, tools like rocket boots, upgrading your robot companion that can scout ahead for you, and you can add different attachments onto this, makes it a lot of fun. And then mixing that in with platforming and combat. There's also this really interesting system where you're basically trying to solve the alien language as you explore. Again, reminds me of the Outer Wilds, and it gives you that kind of mystery and discovery feel. And yeah, it just reminds me of games where you have to piece things together yourself instead of it being told directly to you. On top of that, the crafting system is actually one of the highlights. You're combining materials that you find, and you have to utilize the tools to harvest these materials. It's not grindy or anything like that. It's got a really unique kind of gadget system. Again, reminds me of older games like Ratchet & Clank, where you have to kind of, you know, use these tools for the environment around you. But there's other ways you can creatively solve these situations as well, which I really like. Now, honestly, I want to highlight indie games that truly matter to me, with other creators who are doing, you know, what I'm doing, you know, doing it out of passion, out of love. And honestly, this game speaks to me a lot. So go try it out. It's already on a introduction discount, so do go check it out. The atmosphere is so strong with this one, and if you enjoy heavy exploration games and a bit of mystery and creativity, it's definitely going to be your kind of thing if you're anything like me. So go check it out, and yeah, just send the developer some love. I love to highlight these indie games, and I'm so thankful I can do this and share it with you guys. Alright, now let's get back to the video. Now, the first game also had a very interesting art style to it, where it wasn't going for hyperrealism, it was going for a strong, kind of vibrant aesthetic and art style, a little bit of a cartoonish character design. This time around, they are still keeping that, but it is trying to lean into more hyperrealism, which means, you know, it's going to basically be kind of shit for modern day gamers because it's using Unreal Engine slop, and that means terrible performance, micro stutters, all that kind of shit. So you have to expect that. And perhaps the art style won't be as fantastical because it is going for more hyperrealism, so expect ray tracing, all of that stuff, which is going to tank performance a hell of a lot. Do we need any of this? No. So let's talk about early access some more. So another positive is there's going to be 2 major regions on release, so expect to explore, you know, a lot of areas, but they aren't the full, you know, picture. Remember that, they're going to add that later on. But in these 2 regions, which are big, there's actually a lot of diversity. There's going to be 10 biomes in total to actually explore. The next positive is just how they've updated and changed the creature design. So, you know, they're not going to be the same anymore. This is not exactly the same. This is not going to be the same as the first game. So expect brand new creatures. And also their AI has been updated, which I really appreciate. So basically, when you're exploring now, enemies will react to each other. There's an actual ecosystem behind it all, instead of them being kind of their own random little bubble, which was the first game. Now enemies and different creatures are going to react. So for example, these hammerhead creatures that I have actually seen from the early access stuff will actually smash into things, and then you can actually utilize that for gameplay reasons to harvest certain materials and stuff like that. Also, we get creatures hiding in the grass when there are predators nearby, so they will actually react much more dynamically to the ecosystem. And games like Subnautica, you know, the fact that it's leaning into that ecosystem mechanic more, like Rain World or something, that's so good, because that is what could make this game even better. It's not about graphics or anything like that, it's making this game world even more alive, because before it was very basic, generic, you know, bigger enemy hunts smaller fish, something like that. But now it does seem to be a little bit more dynamic, and that is a huge thing. Also, more environmental dangers and traps. Like, you might think you're exploring a cave system, but it turns out to be a goddamn giant clam that traps you and kills you. Stuff like that. So there's just a lot more diversity with its creatures design and all that kind of stuff, and more will be added later. But there are, you know, already crazy things like these giant crabs that walk around at the bottom of the ocean, stuff like this, that just add to the horror elements and makes the ecosystem more alive. And that's the whole point of the first game, is putting into perspective that you are literally nothing compared to the grand nature. And, you know, we think that we have control in our day-to-day lives, but it's just a manufactured ecosystem of humans that we've made. But it's just the manufactured society that we've made on the ground level. If we explored the ocean, we would be totally screwed. And it's about conquering and kind of being in harmony at the same time with those systems. And that's why the first game is so good at juggling, you know, exploration, the feeling that you are exploring and conquering the unknown, but also putting into perspective that you are nothing, and then having the shit scared out of you. It's feelings that make Subnautica so good, not just the gameplay mechanics, because survival crafting has been quite done to death at this point. That's not what makes this game so special.
You're goddamn right.
You have to expect that, you know, some people can utilize the new technology, and it's going to look absolutely amazing on some systems, high-end systems, but most people don't run those systems. For most, generic graphics card is like 3060, that's what most people use, or, you know, 3070 or something like that. And apparently you can only run it on medium settings. You won't be able to utilize ray tracing, which isn't a big thing, but of course this does make the game look crazy, and they have added those systems to make it look much more next-gen. But then, of course, it's got the artifacts of Unreal Engine, so it's a bit of a mixed bag if you're gonna like the upgrade or visuals or not, I guess. So now with the 4 characters that you can control, basically all of them are the same. There's no like main one character who is the main character, as it were, and you have to follow his story. All of his characters are basically the same with how they interact with the story, and there are going to be full, voice lines and stuff like that as you encounter data pads and all this kind of stuff. But the characters you're playing yourself don't seem to matter that much who you choose. Some more positives for Subnautica 2 is they're not using AI for development at all. And I think I am going to have to start saying that in my early access coverages or just reviews in general now, because as AI gets more and more in gaming, and I absolutely hate it, I never use it for my own music, I never use it for my own work, I'm completely against it. I've made videos and philosophical analysis as to why it's actually bad. Go check out my DLSS6 breakdown if you're curious, but I'm just so glad that they're not using any of that shit in this game, so that's a big plus for me. But also another big positive is this time it's leaning into a little bit more of character progression and actually making it not RPG, but there are RPG traits where now you can actually get abilities for your characters. So for example, now you could regen health. So for example, now you could have a buff that actually helps with health regeneration. You can regain oxygen while standing still. Little buffs and modifications to add to your character. So it is leaning into a little bit of, player expression. So we're not all going to be the same just depending on the tools that we use, but also the upgrades that we actually have, which is kind of a big change for Subnautica. And I think after seeing all of the videos and lore breakdowns, which a lot of people are fascinated about, and the inspired content that has been released on YouTube about how much of a horror game Subnautica actually is deep down, they are leaning into that more. So expect much more scary ambience and horrifying creatures, and I'm so glad, because that is actually an underrated feature of the game, and they are leaning into that even more this time around. So for example, we now have the new Void Leviathan, which is going to be absolutely horrible, and this acts more as a hunter, so it's not passive in its own area. There are going to be creatures that actively hunt you now, which is going to make it even more terrifying. There's also going to be bigger ships and all this kind of stuff. New tools for you to use, like these little rockets on your wrist that help you, which helps you with exploration and all that kind of stuff. Vehicles that add to the co-op feel of it now, so you can all explore, in the same ship or holding onto the same ship, taking down cargo with you. So it's not so much of annoying micromanagement where you'd have to create tons of inventory boxes before. Now you can actually, go down, explore, and bring what you actually need with you, instead of it being, a little bit of a chore as the previous game. So now features that are coming to Subnautica 2 early access, as this is going to take 2 years. It might actually take longer. Realistically, we're just gonna have to wait and see, but these are some of the features that are now actually coming later, so don't expect them to be here. So things like proximity chat is coming out later, which I think is a huge thing for this game and will make it a lot more tense when you are exploring. More hunters, of course, more hunter type enemies that are actually going to grab you and throw your ship around and stuff like that, which is kind of crazy. I'm looking forward to that. More customization for your characters, and of course, expect new enemies, new creatures, AI behavior to get better over time, bugs to be ironed out and fixed, because it is going to be a little bit janky on release, most likely. And of course, tons of new biomes and stuff like that. New story, which is going to get patched in slowly. So after each update, there will be new story beats added. So it's not a full story with the early access. So if you want to play this and you want the full story, you're not going to get that. You're going to have to wait and see what happens. But I do like the fact that we are already getting interesting biomes, new creatures like the lava land and stuff like that, and new Leviathan type enemies that are even more scary than before, and it really adds to that cosmic horror, like I said, that Subnautica deals with so well, and just exploring the unknown. It taps in so well to man versus nature, the illusion of control that we have, that Stoicism always talks about letting go of, focusing on what is within your control, your own thinking, your moral being, and everything else is purely outside of it. Subnautica truly highlights that this ecosystem carries on without you, that you are an intruder into this ecosystem. And if you see some of the footage out there that have tried to make that show just how scary these creatures would be in real life is truly terrifying. So Subnautica 2 Early Access, is it worth it? Should you be playing this game straight away with Early Access or wait for the full release? I think if you love the first game, then definitely Early Access is a no-brainer, but it won't be smooth, it won't be polished as you expected probably, and there are going to be things missing from the game. There's already enough here that I can at least say that it is good Early Access. It's not slop Early Access, which is a big thing. So I just wanted to do this Subnautica 2 review, not full review obviously, but just dissecting everything that you need to know so far, everything that I have gathered from what has been shown to press, what has been shown to the public, what I can talk about, and just all of the gameplay so far, analyzing it and all that stuff to give you this Subnautica 2 Early Access review, because honestly, this can be a slam dunk if it's nailed correctly. So thank you for watching, my wise ones. I hope you enjoyed this video, and like I said, subscribe if you're new, give the video a like, and I'll be seeing you in the next one. Have a great day, and peace out.